Okay, so everyone, yesterday we had a very good conversation on Google, why you should have Google, and what's going on with Google in 2025. As Hugo already introduced, we want to talk now about diversifying. But here's the thing, Ali. I'm just looking at this information and I'm looking on the right side. I'm looking at how many billions Google is doing, how many searches Facebook has. So why should we diversify from Facebook and Google?
Well, first of all, there has been a roller coaster. Like Mark Zuckerberg has been in Congress, I don't know how many times already. Google is also always like changing their policies, their algorithms, coming with new products that you can't test and A/B test and all of it. So you can't rely on the whim of just two media sources.
Okay, that's a very good point. And as Hugo mentioned, we had the whole TikTok thing last 2 weeks ago for a whole 11 hours. There was a panic with a lot of clients that do TikTok and do well. So this is why we wanted to talk today about different media channels. There are other options, and we really think you should explore them. So let's take a look. Oh, well, this is what we were talking. Okay, so let's talk first about the video ones. I think most of you might have noticed that during the TikTok panic, the number one app on the App Store was RedNote. I think it is still in the top 5. So what is RedNote, Ali?
So it's very similar to TikTok. It actually has a little bit more capabilities, but it was less known. But after the TikTok ban happened, everybody was like, what is the best alternative? So there is this, like, it's Chinese, but they like translated everything as soon as they saw their opportunity coming. And users are sticking to it. So they haven't been losing a lot of users. So this would be a good alternative to have in mind just in case TikTok again.
Is it available everywhere? Because I know it's available in China and in Europe, but is it available in all of the US?
Yes, it is available in all of the US, and they are working on the ad side to be available on the US soon.
One thing that we wanted to mention that is important is that these are great. You should keep an eye on that. If you're able to jump into them early on, that's good. Just keep in mind they might not stick. When this happened when Twitter was bought, a lot of people migrated to Threads. It was massive. Nowadays, as much as Facebook is pushing for that, it's not staying. So far, RedNote seems to be sticking, but we like to keep an eye on that. And what is Lemonade? That one is not familiar to me.
So Lemonade is also owned by the same company that TikTok is. It has like a more influencer focused content, but the community is like very loyal and it's constantly growing. The only downside is that if TikTok gets banned, Lemonade will get banned too. But I don't think that will happen. So please keep an eye on it, on this as well. This has a little bit of older audience than TikTok. So
Interesting. So when we discussed this, I was a little surprised to see Snapchat because I thought no one was using a Snapchat, except I myself use a Snapchat, but I thought no one else did. I thought I was like unique here. Talk to me about a Snapchat. What's going on?
it's still ranked the sixth most popular social media platform. Like people that have a Snapchat are not leaving. They are still using it. They are still sending snaps. And you can target other audiences that are not in TikTok yet or that they refuse to follow other social media platforms. So you can target millennials and centennials. And their ad system is, because of that, way cheaper than Instagram, like 50% and 60% compared to Facebook per se. So you would get more for your money on Snapchat than you would on other platforms. And as a tip, please don't be afraid to be funny to Hispanic audiences. Like we really like brands that have like an edge and can like be less contracted, especially in an ambience like Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat is a perfect location to test those like funny videos that you were not sure the Facebook audience will appreciate.
Yeah, people.
So Then there is the next one. For a lot of people, myself included, now that Google does not work the same way it used to work a few years ago, I'm there constantly. If I'm going to go out to eat in Providence, Rhode Island, I'm like, best restaurants in Providence, Rhode Island, Reddit at the end. So like, I know that it's hugely popular, but I know we have done ads there. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like?
Well, what you just said is one of the reasons of why you should diversify. Because as you say, a lot of people had flown away from Google to Reddit. So this is a forum-based website. 45% of the Reddit users are not on Instagram, 69% are not on LinkedIn, and almost 60% are not on TikTok. So this is like another avenue to open yourself to an audience that you couldn't reach other ways. It is very active, and people trust it a lot. The only thing is that if you go on Reddit, the community is very vocal. So you can't just leave your campaign. Like, you need to trace all the conversation that will be generated on your ads.
Yes. So if you decide to do a Reddit campaign, monitor it and just abandon that. Okay. So now we have Vibe. This is one that I was not familiar with a few years ago, but that has become super interesting for us now, especially for people that want to do TV, but don't want to produce a whole commercial that can get expensive pretty quickly. Ali, can you give us an overview of what Vibe is?
Yeah, Vibe is a great alternative to other streaming services. For example, you can do Roku ads or Hulu ads or Disney ads, but on Vibe, you can select a lot of channels and you can select a lot of different streaming services instead of just choosing one and having to commit to minimums. So with Vibe, I added there the channels inventory. For example, for Hispanic community, there are 21 channels. So there is one for football, soccer. There is one for novelas. There is one for Mexican game shows. So you can reach the right audience. There are for kids, for other type of brands and services, family-friendly channels. And the best part of it is that the content that generates more traction is not like super produced commercials. It's more like user generated content, which is very easy to create and very cheap for you.
So for example, could I use an ad that I'm currently using on Instagram or TikTok for this?
Yes, for TikTok would be best.
The TikTok one. Okay. Very cool. So radio, let's talk about radio. There are two things here that I was surprised to find out, Sirius and Spotify. I don't know when listen to radio, but again, I'm just going to tell you all, I'm thinking a lot of things that are not true, and Ali's here to tell me I'm wrong. So talk to me about radio.
Well, SiriusXM is more for like radio on the radio side, but Spotify is streaming music, right? So if you don't have like a premium subscription, you will get ads. And you can, with both, you can reach people while they are working, while they are driving. If you are a personal injury lawyer, that's a great way to reach someone that you know is driving to their work. And you can select the radio stations of the type of music they listen. So if you want, again, if you want to reach Hispanic audiences, you can select or target very well. You can try to do it by age too. And by complementing with other social media ads, you can like create an audio message that then they can see like the visual on Instagram or on TikTok or on Lemonade, and that will close that circle for you.
And for the record, this wouldn't be useful only for PI. It will be very useful for employment law, for example. People do commute. It will be great for workers' compensation. People are drivers as part of their job. So there are like many practice areas that this will apply to. Radio is still very popular with the Hispanic community in the US. Okay, what is Podcorn?
So podcasts have been growing a lot. There are a lot of people that are like super fan of podcasts. So there's people that still listen to radio, others that are streaming music, and others that they just want to hear podcasts. So on Podcorn, you can create your podcast. This is super important for law firms that need to give more information, like masters or immigration lawyers. And you can partner with other podcasters, and it feels more like a recommendation, like a friend is recommending this to you instead of looking like an ad, which builds the brand's trust a lot. And it's very cheap. Like with $100, you can create a podcast.
All right. So we wanted to summarize this for you because these are all different types of things. If you want the TikTok alternatives, we are bringing Red Note and Lemonade. If you want to reach Gen Z and millennials that are a little harder to find at a lower cost, we're bringing Snapchat for you. If you want people who are not in any of the other ones, you want Reddit. So this is like an entirely different audience. If you want to do TV but don't want to commit to TV, then you can do Vibe. If you want to do radio, SiriusXM and Spotify will be excellent. And if you want to go into podcast, which is a very good alternative that people don't normally consider, there is Podcorn. So do you think this is worth it, Ali, when everyone is doing Google and Facebook? Is there any other reason aside from cost to do these things?
Well, it's more cost effectively to diversify all your risk, as Hugo said at the beginning, and things are shifting very fast. So it's better to just have a video and audio and be there when they search you. So don't close yourself to all the possibilities. Every media source complements each other.
This is super interesting, Ali and Andrea. Thank you for putting this together. There's something that I know is probably going through the heads of many of the guests watching this, and it's what is lemonade? I've never heard of Vibe. I've never heard of Podcorn, and I like to remind everyone that that's exactly what everyone thought about TikTok and Snapchat and even Facebook and MySpace and Friendster and all these other channels that have dictated how we consume media. You just never know which one's going to hit. You really don't. There was even an audio chat room app a few years ago. I don't even remember the name, but it at one point was one of the most downloaded apps for probably like a couple months. And I think that just speaks to how volatile the audiences are in each of these channels. And so what I'm hearing is you had to experiment with all these channels. You had to pour a little bit of investment everywhere. To what extent they work is really just going to depend on your appetite of how long you can withhold that, maintain that investment in these channels. One other thing that I wanted to chime in with was there's so much on DSP, right? And programmatic display, programmatic video. There's also like Hulu and VIX, which is like the Netflix of Univision, which is one of the largest Spanish-speaking channels in the country, if not the biggest one. There are many places to deploy ad dollars. I think that's the main thing here, that Google will always be important. It's just part of our culture, as is Meta, as is TikTok. And you should certainly have some degree of investment there if your main objective is to get phone calls. But try to have anywhere from 10 to 15% of your ads investments in just new channels. You never know. These CPMs, these cost per clicks can be quite competitive. That's my takeaway here. I'd never heard of Podcorn until today. And it just seems like a massive opportunity, Hispanic market or not. This is we're all listening to more content when we're at the gym, when we're going out in our cars. So it's pretty fascinating to see how many other places we can deploy ad dollars for experimentation. So thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much, Ali. This has been a great walkthrough. Let's do a 5-minute break, Joe, and we'll be right back with Sonari and Andrea regarding AI and web development. And then our final segment, stick around, it'll be about intake with the CEO of Veda Virtual, Andy Fang. They are probably the best in bilingual virtual intake for attorneys. So let's take a 5 and see you guys soon.